In the heart of an alien empire, far beyond Earth's starry skies, stood the Grand Palace of Lamora, a shimmering structure made entirely from crystal that refracted light into a kaleidoscope of colors. It was here that Commander Alden Cross found himself standing awkwardly amidst a sea of gawking extraterrestrial dignitaries. A human soldier who had risen to fame for his bravery in intergalactic battles, Alden now wore ceremonial armor polished to perfection, though it felt foreign against his skin compared to the rugged battle gear he usually donned. Beside him stood Princess Seraphina, the most radiant being anyone had ever seen. Her long silvery hair cascaded like liquid moonlight over her shoulders, and her violet eyes sparkled with intelligence and mischief. She was not just any princess. She was the heir to the throne of Zorathia, one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Despite their differences, Alden's coarse military demeanor versus Seraphina's regal elegance, they had fallen deeply in love during a diplomatic mission gone awry when Alden saved her life from marauding space pirates. Their relationship became the talk of two galaxies, celebrated by some as proof that interspecies bonds could unite warring factions. But today, all eyes were on them for another reason entirely. The air crackled with tension as whispers filled the hall, sneaking through the crowd like electric currents. Everyone knew something monumental was about to happen. Seraphina stood tall beside Alden, but her expression betrayed nothing. To those watching, she seemed calm, almost serene, but Alden noticed the subtle twitch at the corner of her mouth, a sign she only showed when she was furious or deeply hurt. He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of what was coming next. Without warning, Seraphina raised her hand and delivered a sharp slap across Alden's face. The sound echoed through the vast chamber, reverberating off the crystalline walls like thunder. Gasps erupted instantly, followed by murmurs so loud they nearly drowned out the delicate hum of the palace's energy core. Alden staggered slightly, his cheek stinging more from shock than pain. He stared at her wide-eyed, unable to comprehend what had just happened. "What was that for?" he managed to ask, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "You know exactly why," Seraphina hissed back, her tone icy despite the fire blazing in her eyes. "Don't act innocent, Alden." The room fell silent again, every eye glued to the couple. Some aliens exchanged knowing glances while others whispered theories under their breaths. For Alden, time slowed down. He replayed recent events in his mind, searching for clues, but came up empty-handed. Whatever had set Seraphina off, it wasn't immediately clear to him, and that uncertainty gnawed at him worse than any accusation. Before he could respond further, Seraphina turned sharply on her heel and strode toward the golden dais where her father, King Valor, sat observing the scene with a mixture of concern and disapproval etched onto his angular face. Alden remained rooted to the spot, unsure whether to follow her or retreat quietly. His instincts screamed at him to fix this, but how could he when he didn't even understand what this was? Instead of chasing after her, Alden clenched his fists and forced himself to stand tall. If there was one thing years of military training had taught him, it was how to maintain composure under pressure, even if said pressure involved public humiliation in front of hundreds of judgmental extraterrestrials. Still, beneath his stoic exterior, his thoughts churned furiously. What had he done wrong? And more importantly, how could he make things right? As the crowd began dispersing slowly, leaving Alden alone in the cavernous hall, he realized this was only the beginning of whatever storm awaited them both. Whatever had caused Seraphina's anger ran deeper than a simple misunderstanding. It cut straight to the core of their relationship. And no matter how much he wanted answers, Alden couldn't shake the sinking feeling that unraveling this mystery would be anything but easy. That evening, Alden sought refuge in the palace gardens, a sprawling expanse of bioluminescent flora that pulsed softly in hues of blue and green. The tranquil setting offered little comfort, however, as his mind raced with unanswered questions. He replayed the slap endlessly, dissecting every interaction he'd had with Seraphina leading up to the incident. Nothing stood out, no argument, no betrayal, no hint of discord. Yet, her reaction suggested a wound far deeper than anything trivial. His musings were interrupted by the arrival of Kale, Seraphina's closest confidant and advisor. Kale was a tall, lithe alien with iridescent scales that shimmered faintly in the dim light. His presence commanded respect, yet his tone was gentle as he approached Alden. "You look troubled, Commander," Kale said, seating himself on a nearby bench crafted from glowing stone. "I am," Alden admitted, running a hand through his short-cropped hair. I don't understand what happened today. One moment we're fine, or so I thought, and the next—" He trailed off, gesturing helplessly. Cale sighed, leaning back and folding his arms. "It is not my place to speak for her, but perhaps ignorance is part of your problem." His words hung heavy in the air, cryptic yet pointed. "What does that mean?" Alden asked, frustration creeping into his voice. Princess Seraphina has always been fiercely independent, proud of her lineage and responsibilities. She values honesty above all else. If you've given her reason to doubt either your loyalty or sincerity—" He let the sentence linger unfinished, allowing Alden's imagination to fill in the blanks. Alden frowned, defensive instincts kicking in. "I haven't lied to her. Ever." "Perhaps not intentionally," Cale countered. "But actions can betray intentions without us realizing it. Have you considered how your decisions might appear from her perspective?" Alden opened his mouth to argue but stopped himself. Could Cale be right? He thought back to recent weeks, the long hours spent strategizing with human diplomats instead of spending time with Seraphina, the classified missions he hadn't fully explained to her. To him, these choices seemed necessary, even noble. But to someone like Seraphina, whose culture prized transparency and emotional connection, they might have looked like abandonment or secrecy. Before Alden could dwell further, an urgent summons arrived via holographic message from King Valor. The king requested Alden's immediate presence in the royal council chambers. With a nod of thanks to Cale, Alden left the garden, steeling himself for whatever awaited him. The council chambers were starkly different from the opulent halls of the palace. Cold metallic walls replaced crystalline ones, and the atmosphere buzzed with tension. Seated around a circular table were members of Zorathia's High Council, their expressions ranging from stern to outright hostile. At the head of the table sat King Valor, his piercing gaze fixed on Alden as he entered. "Commander Cross," the king began, his deep voice echoing ominously. "Your presence here is necessitated by grave concerns regarding your conduct and its implications for our alliance with Earth." Alden blinked, caught off guard. "My conduct?" he repeated, confused. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, I'm not sure what—" "The rumors are rampant," interjected Councillor Draven, a wiry alien with translucent skin that revealed pulsating veins beneath. "Whispers of infidelity, neglect, and dishonor swirl around your name. Do you deny these allegations?" "Infidelity?" The word hit Alden like a punch to the gut. "No," he exclaimed, incredulous. "There's no truth to any of that. I would never." "Yet evidence suggests otherwise," Draven pressed, sliding a data tablet across the table. On its screen flashed images of Alden speaking privately with a female ambassador during a recent diplomatic event. They weren't incriminating per se, but paired with malicious captions suggesting impropriety, they painted a damning picture. "This is ridiculous," Alden growled, slamming his fist on the table. "Those photos are taken out of context. She's a colleague, nothing more." "Then explain this," snapped Councillor Naira, her insectoid features twitching with disdain as she produced audio recordings of intercepted communications between Alden and the ambassador. While technically benign, the casual familiarity in their exchanges could easily be misconstrued as flirtation. Alden felt the blood drain from his face. Someone had orchestrated this, carefully planting seeds of doubt to poison his reputation. But who? And why frame him now, after months of uneventful service? King Valor leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Commander, I do not wish to believe ill of you. However, appearances matter greatly in matters of state. Until this situation is resolved, your position within our court, and your bond with my daughter, is untenable." Dismissed abruptly, Alden exited the chambers reeling. As he wandered aimlessly through the palace corridors, the enormity of the conspiracy against him sank in. Whoever was behind this wasn't merely seeking to embarrass him, they aimed to destroy everything he held dear. Back in his quarters, Alden paced furiously, piecing together fragments of information. Suddenly, realization dawned. The ambassador implicated in the scandal had ties to a rival faction known for undermining Zorathian-Earth relations. This wasn't personal, it was political. But proving his innocence wouldn't be easy. Not when everyone already believed the worst. Determined to fight back, Alden activated his communicator and reached out to Lieutenant Mara, his trusted second-in-command stationed aboard the orbiting human cruiser. "Mara, I need you to dig into Ambassador Velas's background," he instructed urgently. "Find anything suspicious. Financial transactions, secret meetings, anything." "Already on it, sir," came Mara's crisp reply. "But tread carefully, Commander. You're walking into dangerous territory." Dangerous or not, Alden knew he had no choice. For Serafina's sake, and for the fragile peace between their worlds, he couldn't afford to fail. News of Alden's alleged betrayal spread faster than wildfire through the palace, igniting a whirlwind of gossip and speculation. By morning, every servant, guard, and visiting dignitary seemed to have formed an opinion about the scandal. Whispers trailed Alden wherever he went, each glance carrying a mix of pity, disdain, or outright hostility. Even those who claimed neutrality couldn't resist stealing furtive looks at the disgraced human soldier, as though expecting him to crumble under the weight of public scrutiny. For Serafina, the fallout was equally suffocating. As the princess, she bore the brunt of societal expectations, her every move dissected and judged. Courtiers openly debated whether she should sever ties with Alden immediately or endure the humiliation for the sake of diplomacy. Some dared to approach her directly, offering unsolicited advice wrapped in saccharine tones. "My lady, it is better to end such affairs swiftly," one elderly counselor simpered during breakfast. "A broken engagement is preferable to a tarnished legacy." Serafina listened silently, her poise unshaken despite the storm raging inside her. She despised being treated like a pawn in a game of galactic politics, her personal life reduced to fodder for idle chatter. Yet, what stung most was the lingering doubt gnawing at her heart. Had she misjudged Alden so completely? Was the man she loved capable of deceit on such a scale? Every conflicting emotion tore at her resolve, leaving her torn between anger, sorrow, and an aching longing for clarity. Meanwhile, Alden faced his own trials. Stripped of his ceremonial duties, he found himself isolated within the palace, relegated to quarters that felt more like a gilded cage than a home. Attempts to reach Serafina were thwarted by guards who cited royal orders, and messages sent via intermediaries went unanswered. Desperation clawed at him as days passed without progress in clearing his name. Each setback fueled the growing chasm between them, making reconciliation seem increasingly impossible. The strain began manifesting physically. Alden's once imposing frame grew gaunt from restless nights spent poring over evidence, while dark circles shadowed his eyes. Servants whispered among themselves about how rapidly he was deteriorating, speculating whether guilt or grief was driving him to ruin. In contrast, Serafina maintained an outward facade of strength, though those closest to her noticed subtle changes. Her laughter became rare, her steps heavier, and her violet eyes lost some of their usual sparkle. Amidst the chaos, rumors of divorce gained traction. Tabloids catering to interstellar audiences latched onto the drama, publishing sensational headlines like "Intergalactic Love Story Ends in Betrayal" and "Will Princess Serafina Choose Duty Over Heart?" Pundits weighed in with wild theories, some suggesting Alden had orchestrated the entire affair to gain leverage over Zarathia, while others speculated Serafina herself had fabricated the scandal to escape an unwanted marriage. The absurdity of these claims did little to quell the frenzy, and soon even Earth-based media joined the fray, portraying Alden alternately as a victim of alien prejudice or a rogue operative playing both sides for personal gain. Through it all, neither Alden nor Serafina could escape the relentless tide of public opinion. Their private pain bled into the public sphere, magnified tenfold by the insatiable appetite for scandal. Friends tried to intervene. Kale urged Serafina to give Alden a chance to explain, while Lieutenant Mara implored Alden to confront Serafina directly. But both parties hesitated, paralyzed by pride and fear of rejection. And then came the breaking point. During a formal banquet hosted to celebrate Zarathia's alliance with a neighboring planet, Alden appeared unexpectedly, defying orders to remain confined to his quarters. Dressed in full military regalia, he strode purposefully toward Serafina, who stood frozen amidst a group of dignitaries. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to them, anticipation crackling in the air. "Alden," Serafina said coolly, her voice steady despite the turmoil swirling within her. "You shouldn't be here." "I don't care," he replied, his tone raw with emotion. "I need you to listen to me, Serafina. Just once. Please." She hesitated, torn between duty and desire. Finally, she nodded curtly, motioning for him to follow her to a secluded balcony overlooking the palace gardens. Once alone, Alden launched into an impassioned plea, recounting his discoveries about the conspiracy and swearing his innocence. Serafina listened intently, her expression unreadable as he spoke. When he finished, silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken truths. Then, softly, she said, "How can I trust you, Alden? How can I believe this isn't another lie?" Her words struck him like a dagger, cutting deeper than any accusation. "Because I love you," he whispered hoarsely. "More than anything. More than honor, more than pride. If you can't forgive me, then take everything else away, but don't doubt that." Tears welled in Serafina's eyes, spilling silently down her cheeks. For the first time since the scandal erupted, the walls around her heart began to crack. But forgiveness wasn't a decision made lightly, especially when the stakes were so high. Both knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, yet neither could deny the flicker of hope reigniting between them. As they stood together on the balcony, bathed in the soft glow of twin moons, the weight of their fractured world pressed heavily upon them. Reconciliation was possible, but it would require sacrifices neither was prepared to make just yet. The turning point came unexpectedly, during a diplomatic summit held aboard the orbiting human cruiser. Tensions had reached a boiling point, with representatives from both Earth and Zerathia locked in heated debates over trade agreements and territorial disputes. Amidst the chaos, Alden and Serafina found themselves thrust into the same negotiation room, a calculated move by King Valor, who hoped proximity might force them to address their unresolved issues. At first, the atmosphere crackled with hostility. Alden sat stiffly at one end of the table, his jaw clenched as he reviewed documents detailing proposed treaties. Across from him, Serafina maintained a composed demeanor, though her fingers tapped nervously against the polished surface. Neither acknowledged the other directly, focusing instead on the task at hand. But as discussions dragged on, cracks began to show in their professional facades. It started subtly, a fleeting glance exchanged when no one was looking, a hesitant smile that faded before it could be interpreted. Then came moments of accidental coordination, where their arguments aligned perfectly despite their strained relationship. These small synchronicities didn't go unnoticed by the other delegates, who exchanged knowing glances but wisely kept their observations to themselves. One particularly contentious issue arose concerning resource allocation along shared borders. Emotions flared as both sides dug in their heels, unwilling to compromise. Frustration mounted until Serafina finally slammed her hands on the table, startling everyone present. "Enough!" she declared, her voice ringing with authority. "This squabbling achieves nothing. We are stronger united than divided. Surely we can find common ground." Her outburst silenced the room, drawing all eyes to her. Alden watched her intently, admiration mingling with regret. Without hesitation, he rose to his feet, addressing the assembly. "She's right," he said firmly. "We've allowed mistrust to cloud our judgment. Let's focus on solutions, not grievances." For a brief moment, time seemed to freeze. The room collectively held its breath as Alden and Serafina locked gazes, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Slowly, tentative nods of agreement rippled through the delegates, breaking the tension. Together, they hammered out a compromise, their combined leadership steering the negotiations toward resolution. Afterward, as the meeting adjourned, Alden lingered behind, waiting until the room emptied save for Serafina. When she finally turned to leave, he stepped into her path, blocking her exit. "Thank you," he said simply, his voice thick with emotion. Serafina paused, studying him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "For what?" "For believing in us," he replied. "Even when I doubted myself." Her defenses wavered slightly, and she sighed, crossing her arms. "Belief isn't enough, Alden. Trust has to be earned." He nodded earnestly. "I know. And I'll spend every day proving myself worthy of yours, if you'll let me." They stood there for what felt like eternity, the weight of their shared history pressing down upon them. Finally, Serafina uncrossed her arms and took a step closer. "Start by telling me the truth. All of it. No more secrets, no more half-truths." Can you promise me that? Yes, Alden answered without hesitation. Absolutely. Reluctantly, she extended her hand, palm up, an olive branch. Hesitating only briefly, Alden clasped it gently, feeling the warmth of her touch ignite a spark of hope within him. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. Word of their renewed cooperation spread quickly, sparking cautious optimism among allies on both sides. Rumors of reconciliation began circulating once again, though tempered by skepticism. Few dared to predict the outcome of their fragile détente, aware that repairing a fractured bond required more than gestures of goodwill. Over the following weeks, Alden threw himself into rebuilding trust, not just with Serafina but with the wider Zorathian community. He attended cultural ceremonies, participated in local traditions, and engaged sincerely with citizens who had once viewed him with suspicion. Each effort was met with mixed reactions. Some embraced his attempts at integration, while others remained guarded, but Alden refused to be deterred. Progress, he reminded himself, was rarely linear. Simultaneously, Serafina grappled with her own internal struggles. Though she admired Alden's determination, doubts still lingered in the recesses of her mind. Late at night, she often replayed memories of their happiest moments together, searching for signs she might have missed. Had she been too quick to judge? Too eager to believe the worst? These questions haunted her, keeping her awake long after the palace grew quiet. Despite their individual battles, the couple gradually rebuilt bridges, inch by painful inch. Shared meals replaced terse exchanges, and stolen conversations replaced icy silences. They learned to navigate their differences anew, rediscovering the quirks and idiosyncrasies that had initially drawn them together. Laughter returned to their interactions, tentative at first but growing steadier with time. Yet challenges persisted. Public perception remained divided, with detractors seizing on any perceived misstep to fuel renewed skepticism. Anonymous letters criticizing their reunion flooded the palace mailroom, each one testing their resolve. Through it all, Alden and Serafina leaned on each other, finding strength in unity rather than succumbing to external pressures. One evening, as they strolled through the palace gardens bathed in twilight, Serafina stopped suddenly, turning to face Alden. "Do you think we'll ever truly move past this?" she asked, her voice tinged with vulnerability. Alden hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I think scars take time to heal. But if we keep working at it, if we choose each other every single day, I believe we can." She smiled faintly, reaching out to brush her fingers against his cheek. For the first time in months, the gesture felt natural, unburdened by resentment. "Then let's keep choosing," she whispered. As they walked hand in hand beneath the glowing canopy of alien flora, the future stretched before them, a winding path filled with uncertainties but also possibilities. Together, they vowed to face whatever lay ahead, armed with love, resilience, and the unwavering belief that redemption was always within reach. Years passed, and the bond between Alden and Serafina grew stronger with each passing day. What had once been fractured was now mended, not perfectly, for scars remained, but those imperfections only deepened their connection. They learned to see beauty in the cracks, understanding that it was their struggles that had forged something unbreakable. The palace gardens became a sanctuary where they often strolled together, hand in hand, discussing everything from galactic politics to the quiet joys of simply being alive. Their reconciliation wasn't just a personal victory. It also marked a turning point for intergalactic relations. The alliance between Earth and Zorathia flourished under their shared leadership, as both worlds recognized the power of unity over division. Trade routes expanded, cultural exchanges enriched lives on both planets, and joint scientific endeavors pushed the boundaries of exploration further than ever before. Alden and Serafina stood side by side at ceremonies and summits, no longer two separate entities but a cohesive force admired across galaxies. But perhaps the greatest joy came not from treaties or diplomatic triumphs, but from the small miracles of life itself. One fateful morning, Serafina summoned Alden to her private chambers, her violet eyes sparkling with excitement. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice trembling slightly as she extended a data tablet displaying medical results. Alden scanned the information, his breath catching in his throat. "Are you saying—" She nodded, beaming. "We're going to have a baby." For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Alden pulled her into an embrace so tight she laughed, tears welling in her eyes. It was a dream neither had dared to hope for during their darkest days, a symbol of renewal, of love made tangible. News of the pregnancy spread quickly through the palace, sparking celebrations among courtiers and citizens alike. Even King Valor softened visibly, his stern demeanor giving way to doting grandfatherly affection. 9 months later, amidst a flurry of anticipation, Princess Lyria was born, a perfect blend of her parents' traits. She inherited Alden's determined gaze and Seraphina's shimmering silver hair, along with a curious nature that kept everyone around her on their toes. From the moment she entered the world, Lyria became the light of their lives, a constant reminder of how far they'd come and the future they were building together. As years went by, their family grew. A second child, a boy named Kalen after Seraphina's trusted advisor, joined them 3 years after Lyria. Kalen possessed an adventurous spirit, always eager to explore every corner of the palace, and beyond. Together, the siblings brought laughter and chaos into Alden and Seraphina's lives, filling the once sterile halls with warmth and noise. Parenting proved to be its own adventure. Raising children who were part human and part Zorathian presented unique challenges, from teaching them to navigate 2 vastly different cultures to helping them understand their place in a universe full of wonder and complexity. But Alden and Seraphina faced these challenges together, drawing strength from their experiences. They taught their children the importance of empathy, resilience, and forgiveness, lessons they themselves had learned the hard way. Lyria and Kalen thrived in this environment of love and acceptance. By the time they reached adolescence, they were already making waves in their respective fields. Lyria showed a natural talent for diplomacy, often accompanying her parents to official events and impressing delegates with her sharp mind and compassionate approach. Kalen, meanwhile, developed a fascination with engineering, spending countless hours tinkering with spacecraft designs in the palace workshops. Both children carried pieces of their parents within them, embodying the best qualities of humanity and Zorathian heritage. Despite their busy schedules, Alden and Seraphina never lost sight of what truly mattered, their family. Every evening, no matter how demanding the day had been, they gathered in the dining hall for meals filled with laughter and storytelling. These moments became sacred rituals, grounding them against the pressures of public life. On weekends, they ventured outside the palace walls, exploring hidden corners of Zorathia or embarking on short trips to Earth, where Lyria and Kalen marveled at the blue skies and sprawling oceans. Through it all, Alden and Seraphina continued to grow closer. Their relationship evolved from passionate romance to enduring partnership, rooted in mutual respect and unwavering support. They celebrated milestones together, anniversaries, promotions, and even the occasional disagreement resolved with patience and humor. Friends joked that they were more like teammates than lovers, seamlessly balancing responsibilities while still finding time for stolen kisses and quiet conversations beneath the stars. One particularly memorable evening, long after the children had grown and begun forging paths of their own, Alden and Seraphina found themselves alone in the palace gardens. The air was cool, scented with the sweet fragrance of night-blooming flowers. Hand in hand, they walked along familiar paths, reflecting on their journey. "Do you remember when we first met?" Seraphina asked, glancing up at him with a wistful smile. "How could I forget?" Alden replied, chuckling softly. "You were surrounded by space pirates, shouting orders like some kind of warrior queen. And you were covered in grease, wielding a makeshift weapon," she countered, laughing. "Not exactly the picture of heroism." "Well, it worked out in the end," he said, pulling her closer. "Against all odds, we made it work." Seraphina rested her head on his shoulder, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think we're happy enough? Or is there still more we're meant to do?" Alden paused, considering her question. Then he smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "I think happiness isn't about reaching some final destination. It's about appreciating the journey, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And if that's true, then yes, I think we're doing pretty well." They stood there for a while, watching as twin moons rose above the horizon, casting silvery light over the crystalline palace. Behind them, faint echoes of laughter drifted from inside, a testament to the legacy they had built together. Though their story had been marked by trials and tribulations, it had ultimately become one of redemption, love, and joy. And so, Alden and Seraphina lived happily, not because life was without challenges, but because they faced those challenges together. Surrounded by their children, their people, and the boundless possibilities of the universe, they embraced each new day with gratitude and hope. For in the end, their greatest achievement wasn't conquering adversity. It was creating a life filled with meaning, connection, and endless wonder.